Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Night Shift podcast, where we break down the Sunday night and Monday night football DFS slates. This is Chris Raybon, your host, and I am joined, as always, by one of the top fantasy rankers in the biz, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? I am super excited for week 2. Like I said last pod, we actually have data to work with. It might only be 1 week, but at least it's something. So I'm super excited, like make projections based on actual data, discuss these guys with the routes run and target share and stuff. Just can't wait for week 2 to start. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good, man. It's Thursday, so got a good chunk of the week done. Excited for this. We got a good Thursday night football matchup, so I'm sure by the time this is out, people will have seen that. But excited. We got 2 Monday night football games this week.
Oh yeah. So. Love it.
Yeah, so we got a lot to get to.
Yeah. Is that a Wade Boggs jersey, by the way?
It is. It's a Wade Boggs Devil Rays jersey.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man. It's one of my favorite baseball jerseys. I don't have many. I have mostly football, but I had to get this when I saw it online. Like it's just probably my favorite baseball jersey. This and the teal Ken Griffey Mariners. Those are my two.
Oh, nice. That is old school Devil Rays right there.
Yes, sir. All right, let's jump into the Sunday night football slate. And before we do, just want to remind you, if you heard Sean and I talking player projections this week on the Action Network podcast, welcome back. It's even more good stuff. And if you haven't, be sure to check that episode out. It is on the Action Network podcast channel. And now we're going to get into Sunday night football. We're going to talk some captains. The freaks come out at night. So our producer wanted us to throw this in there. We got this new segment. It's all about freaks, freak performances. So, Sean, who you going with in your captain spot for Sunday night football?
I'm going with AJ Dillon, and I can absolutely see Dillon having a freak performance Sunday night. Dillon had a bit of a fluky week 1 in terms of his receiving role. He saw 6 targets to Aaron Jones 5, despite running like half the routes run as Aaron Jones. So I'm not expecting Dillon to really see 6 receptions too often going forward. However, it wasn't too surprising to see that he outrushed Aaron Jones 10-5. I think you and I both had AJ Dillon leading this backfield in carries this season. And it was also comforting to see that he saw both goal line carries, converting one of them to a touchdown. Our friend and former colleague Matthew Freeman is probably smiling at that stat along with me. That was very good to see. And I think in a potential run-heavy game script against the Bears, he could eat. And it's going to be nice to see if Bakhtiari, Runyon, and Jenkins can all return. I mean, once they're all back, this offensive line should be a lot better. So this could be a great matchup for Dillon. I could easily see him finishing with over 100 yards, couple touchdowns in a lower scoring game, stack him with the Packers defense. And that would be good enough in the captain slot.
I would just like you and Friedman to know that your boy AJ Dillon might have got that touchdown, but my boy Jamal Williams got 2. So he's still doing his thing. It might not be in Green Bay, but he's still doubling up the rest of the people in this Green Bay backfield.
Hell yeah. Get those
and he's getting a little dance. Yeah,
he's getting those leadership carries, those leader carries.
Called before. He balled out. He was balling out. I mean that whole running game. We'll talk about it because we got the Eagles on deck for this Monday night game. But for my captain, a guy I'm expected to have a freak performance, I am going with Aaron Jones because I love to read the beat reports and all the things that are kind of coming out of these team practices, and the coach, Matt LaFleur himself has said it. We got to get Aaron Jones more carries. He only had 5 carries, as you mentioned. He was on the field for 37 snaps and only had 8 touches, 10 opportunities. We know the Packers are going to use both of their running backs a lot because Aaron Rodgers, the offensive line, still shaky. The receivers aren't getting open. Home favorite should be raucous in Lambeau. This is just a great spot for running backs. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon eat. This is one of the few spots I think you want to roster both running backs on the same team. Not many opportunities to do that outside of the Lions and the Eagles, but I really like this matchup for Aaron Jones. He averaged 9.8 yards a carry on his 5 carries last week. So whatever issues were going down with the offensive line didn't really affect him as much. And I think he's going to get, continue to see the ball a ton in the receiving game. He ran a route on 65% of Aaron Rodgers' dropbacks last week compared to 37 for A.J. Dillon. So they had the backs on the field at the same time. We saw that happen as well. So love me some Aaron Jones this week. I think they grease the squeaky wheel, and he gets the crowd into it for the Packers as his big home favorite.
Yeah, I love that call. And it was very weird to see him only get 3 receptions last week, especially with the wide receiver room just being, in flux right now. So I think they definitely at least get him involved in the receiving game, which is going to be huge.
All right, who do you got for some DFS cheat codes, some dart throws, some cheap guys?
So, with the Packers wide receiver situation in flux, like I just mentioned, I'm going to pivot to one of Aaron Rodgers' trusted targets, an old Bobby Tunyon. So I'm going Robert Tunyon here. Now, he was eased into action week 1. It was a bit of a surprise that he was able to suit up. He's coming back from the ACL tear from last season. They only had him run a route on 42% of Rodgers' dropbacks, but he still saw 5 targets. I mean, he's clearly one of Rodgers' favorite targets. So I would imagine his playing time is only going to go up starting this week, possibly. So he could be a sneaky play here. His rostership might be a little bit lower because, people are waiting for him to kind of see an uptick in playing time. But I like him in this 1-game slate. And I'm going to have to go someone on the other side. And I have to go with some revenge game narrative here. And that's Equiminius St. Brown. Now, he managed to catch an 18-yard touchdown last week in that monsoon. Unfortunately, that was his only catch. But it was encouraging to see at least that he was the number 2 wide receiver. He ran right out on 74% of Justin Fields' dropbacks. That could go down. I anticipate them to get Byron Pringle more involved going forward, but that could, come at the expense of Dante Pettis. So I still like St. Brown here. Darnell Mooney could face quite a bit of Jair Alexander, unless the Bears, move him into the slot a bit to avoid that. So St. Brown could have a sneaky game here. So he's worth a dart throw on the Bears side.
Yeah, for me, I actually like Pringle in this spot because the Packers, last week the Bears went up against the Niners, and the Niners played a decent amount of man coverage, and Equiminius St. Brown in his career has really that's been his thing. He's kind of killed man coverage. He's averaging like more than twice as many yards per route, but the Packers played almost exclusively zone, and I expect them to do that again. So Byron Pringle averages 1.75 yards per route against zone compared to 0.97 against man in his career. ESB is at 0.7 versus zone, but 1.7 versus man. So I do think Pringle gets more involved. I think it switches a little bit. So I like him to kind of be that random dude to emerge, because last week it wasn't just ESB. Dante Pettis caught a long touchdown. So it was like all these Bears received, everybody but Mooney and Cole Kmet essentially balled out for in the monsoon. So I'm going to kind of project forward a little bit and say Byron Pringle's routes do go up this week, given the matchup. I know he was just kind of coming off an injury. Didn't really have any practice time with Justin Fields, given that he's been out for so long. So I'm going to go with Pringle on the Bears. And then for the Packers, everyone's going to kind of be shooting for the, one of the pass catchers. I like the Tunyon call, but I'm just going to go with the Packers defense. I think that this is going to be a major performance for the Packers defense. I think you may see a bunch of sacks and a touchdown from the Packers D. They're 10-point favorites. I'm on the under for this game, if you couldn't tell. And I just expect Lambeau to be nuts. And I expect them to, a lot of their issues in Minnesota were things that they can correct. And, Justin Fields still has one of the highest sack rates in the league. And Justin Fields, going on the road after, let down spot after a great home win to open the season. I just think this is one of those spots, especially since we both like Dylan and Aaron Jones. Great spot to kind of go a little bit contrarian and get a defense in there. And, they don't hit often, but when they do, usually hardly anyone rosters them. So you can get a big jump on the field on those times where the defense, gets a touchdown. So Green Bay D for me.
Yeah, I love that call, especially on this particular slate. That's why, I think pairing them with A.J. Dillon makes a ton of sense. And I love the Pringle call. I mean, he could pop this week, pun intended. But yeah, like with players like him, where he only ran route on 17% of the dropbacks, I make notes of that. Like, that's only going to go up. It was almost a miracle he was able to suit up. I thought he was going to go on the IR. He was expected to miss a lot of time. So Players like that, they're only going to trend up going forward. They're obviously good buy low candidates. So what better time than a 1-game slate that could be low scoring? So I love the Primo call as well.
So if these guys are going to trend up, that means my boy Jake Tongus is gonna trend up.
Well,
he did score that touchdown in the preseason. We were watching it together.
Yeah.
I think we were both on the under, and we were like, "Oh no, Jake Tongus just got in the end zone."
After Andrew Beck, I'm not shutting down any kind of like fullback tight end talk whatsoever. I mean, Beck. Did he catch the first 3 passes? He got the first
2 or 3. Russell Wilson had jitters. He had the jitters and he overthrew him on the first one. The second one he caught on like a little, just like, one of those plays that teams kind of start the game with where they dump it off in the flat and then the guy rumbles for a few yards. And then I think the third one was just a brilliantly schemed one where he was just wide open by himself.
Acrobatic one-handed grab. Just ridiculous. Yeah, that was a good call though.
Yeah, so my guy Jake Tongus out of Cal, man.
Yeah,
he's rookie, made the Bears roster over James O'Shaughnessy, who got released with the NFI designation. So he's gonna be active. I think it's either gonna be him or the old Jet Trevon Wesco, one of those two. Watch out, man.
I hope not. You got Kari Blasingame there too, but moving on.
Oh, there you go. That's what I like to hear.
No, we have 2 more games to get to. So.
All right, let's go with the first Monday Night Football game, and we got the Tennessee Titans going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Titans are 10-point underdogs. The total's around 49, so everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid with the Bills after that dominant Week 1 Thursday night performance. Who do you like in the captain spot?
I mean, I'll let you go first here because you wrote his name down first, so I'll give you the floor if you want.
Hey, it's got to be Gabe Davis, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so this Titans defense gave up a 65-yard touchdown to one of 6 Giants receivers who just happened to be the one coming back from a torn Achilles, who never scored long touchdowns anyway, in Sterling Shepard. So was happy to see him succeed. But this Titans defense has been bottom 10 in deep pass DVOA for the last 3 seasons since 2020. And they started out, they're near the bottom of the league already this year because of that Shepard touchdown. And it's weird because they have decent safeties. So you would think that it would be a good defense. But Daniel Jones last week targeting the entire starting secondary for the Tennessee Titans. That includes the 3 starting corners and the 2 safeties. Daniel Jones, 13 of 15, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception that was just completely on Daniel Jones. Like that,
I was screaming at the TV screen.
Yeah, bro. Like he just threw a no shoulder pass to Saquon Barkley, just like right to the defender. But
good for Dable to just go up in his face and start screaming at him too. Love Dable.
Yeah, he needed that. He came back and let him downfield and got it done. So, but he should have been 13 for 14 with 168 yards and 2 TDs. So now we got Josh Allen, who's like the guy we want Daniel Jones to be. Gabe Davis, he's going to be that guy to go deep. Obviously, Stephon Diggs will as well, but we kind of know what we're getting from him. Gabe Davis will be a little bit cheaper. So, yeah, man, love me some Gabe this week.
Well, I'm obviously going with Gabe Davis as well. And I wrote up in my week 1 tiers that I was treating Gabe Davis as sort of a fringe wide receiver 2-3 option due to the tough matchup against the Rams. So in my week 2 piece, I decided as the president or co-president of the Gabe Davis fan club to impeach myself. And I swore I would never doubt him ever again. It's a dictatorship, so I wasn't removed from office necessarily. But this week he's my wide receiver 11. He ran a route on 100% of Josh Allen's dropbacks in week 1. And I still see people trying to poke holes in his game on Twitter. I don't know if you've been seeing this. But
I have it all muted. I have it all muted.
I have to seek this out. I'm telling you, man, there's hate out there. But they point out he only had 5 targets. Yeah, well, he's playing every snap in an elite offense, catching passes from the current MVP favorite, and not to mention he gets the valuable targets, downfield targets, end zone targets. So he should have another big game this week against the Titans. And again, I'm never going to doubt him ever again.
Yeah, I mean, we were early to the club on this with Gabe Davis. I remember writing him up as a sleeper heading into last year, just saying exactly that.
Ago.
Yeah, his rookie year.
Yeah, but he stepped up when there was 2 or 3 wide receiver injuries,
Yeah.
He was stepping up then. So we've been way early on him.
Yeah. So love the matchup this weekend. His, like you said, his target share has room to grow. So I don't think you want to poke holes in Gabe Davis. One other guy I will mention, because it's kind of the opposite. Nobody's going to be thinking about him, and that is Robert Woods. But if you follow the Giants, you know that Adoree Jackson might be the best corner in the league over the last 8 weeks of last season and into this season. The last 8 games of last season, he gave up something like 12 of 29 for 70 yards, I believe it is. And he's starting. And then this week 1, he shadows Robert Woods and holds him to 1 catch. So like Adoree Jackson's giving up nothing. Downgrade DJ Moore, whatever you need to do, because this dude is just giving up nothing. And so Robert Woods was quiet last week, but now you're going against the Bills team. And what did they do against the Rams? They played all zone, did not blitz once. And they may have to continue doing that, because that's kind of the best way for them to offset the loss of Tre'Davious White. So against zone coverage, this is where Robert Woods flourishes. Remember him with Sean McVay in that offense. So for his career, he's at 1.8 yards per route versus zone, compared to 1.6 versus man. And the Giants played a lot of man because they blitz a lot. So I think this is the completely different matchup for Robert Woods. And I know everyone's going to kind of be on Phillips and Burks and all these guys, but this might be the game where we see Robert Woods actually look like a number 1 receiver. So, cheaper kind of contrarian play for the captain spot. If the Titans get down in the game and they have to kind of throw the ball to come back, I think that could pay off. All right. Who you got for some cheat codes?
So obviously you want to take as many dart throws with the Bills as possible, so I can get behind McKenzie, Crowder, but I'm sticking with the Titans here, and I'm going Dontrell Hilliard, and I think he's sneaky because this game could get out of hand for the Titans by the time we get to the second half. And if they're down by a few scores, they're going to likely lean on Hilliard, who's the pass catching back. Maybe put Derrick Henry in ice. You need to preserve that guy at some point. And unfortunately, Hilliard scored twice last week, so he's probably going to be on everyone's radar. But I just think based on this potential game script, he's a good dart throw. And then you mentioned him, and a lot of people might be on him, and that's going to be me as well. It's Kyle Phillips. He had a big game last week, hauling in 6 of his 9 targets for 66 yards. But he made the biggest catch of the game, setting up that potential game-winning field goal by Randy Bullock that he shanked. But that was such a huge play. And I think when you make plays like that, that gets you more snaps the next week, more targets. So I could see in the second half when they're trailing, he could be Tannehill's safety blanket, and he could really rack up the receptions here as well. So even if he's highly rostered, I don't care. I think he is a good dart throw and somebody that I want on this slate when I'm already going to have a bunch of, high-priced Bills players in my lineup as well.
Yeah, and I like the Hilliard call as well, because a team that goes zone heavy like this, that's when you usually see running backs catch the ball, tight ends as well. Against man coverage, that's when most of the action is going to be funneled to the receivers in those one-on-one matchups. So completely different matchup is the point that I have to stress for this game. Like, it's completely opposite. Phillips is still going to do his thing against whatever coverage, but yeah, for some of these guys like Hilliard, I think it's a great matchup. For me, I'm going to go with Austin Hooper. He was super quiet last week, but he did run around on 65% of the dropbacks. And look at his career numbers: 1.7 yards per route versus zone, 0.9 versus man. So another player who almost doubles up his production against zone coverage. Again, unless the Bills switch it up, which I don't think they will without Tre'Davious, they're going to pretty much play all zone. They didn't even blitz once against Stafford in week 1. So like Hooper this week, even Jeff Swaim, kind of the same thing: 1.4 versus zone, 0.5 versus man in his career. So like he triples it up versus zone coverage. And then on the Bills, the guy I'll mention is, I kind of mentioned him, I think, on one of our preseason pods, but Zach Moss. He's in that role that we wanted James Cook to be in. And while I think Cook's role will grow, we've been hearing a lot of positive things out of camp on Zach Moss, and he looked good in week 1. And this is one of those games where Bills are big favorites, could have some mop-up duty later. You could get a sneaky double touchdown game from Zach Moss. Yep. So gotta roll with my boy Zach Moss as well.
Yeah, love that Moss call. I can't believe I didn't think of that angle. But yeah, just like 1 or 2 touchdowns from him gives you so much leverage because that's taking away from Gabe Davis, taking away from Stephon Diggs, taking away from Dawson Knox, taking away from Devin Singletary. So I love the leverage play in Moss here, especially when they could win this big. And like you said, he's going to be the bomb up duty. Although they might want to see if James Cook can carry the ball without fumbling it. But either way, he's got to be in the doghouse for the next couple of games, I would figure. So I think Moss could, he could sneak up into like double-digit touches here if the game gets out of hand.
And he might not, even if the game doesn't get out of hand, he might be able to. I mean, he was very involved in week one, like very, very involved. So he's kind of got best of both worlds. Like he could be involved if they're close or in a blowout. So like me some Moss. All right, let's go to the final game of the slate, and that is the Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. And this one has the Eagles favored by 1.5 or 2. And the total's around 50.5, 51. So expecting a high scoring close game, which is usually good for fantasy. Who do you like in the captain spot?
Yeah, so I'm going with AJ Brown here. He was so dominant in his Eagles debut, going off for 10 catches for 155 yards. I mean, I drafted Jalen Hurts a shit ton, saying I'm just going to invest in AJ Brown through him. But I kind of wish I drafted AJ Brown as well to stack him up with Hurts, because I mean, he accounted for 73% of the Eagles team air yards per next gen stats, which is the highest of week one. I mean, this offense is the passing attack anyways, literally running through AJ Brown right now. And obviously, the Vikings is a tougher matchup than the Lions, but nothing is too scary about it. And I think people will be gravitating towards Justin Jefferson in the captain slot, maybe even Jalen Hurts, which I can't blame him. So I think AJ Brown is the best pound for pound option in the captain slot this week.
So I got some thoughts on Brown and this Eagles pass catchers, but I'll start with the guy. My favorite captain in this game is not Justin Jefferson, and it's not AJ Brown. It's Dalvin Cook, because I think he will be a little bit more lowly rostered than both of those guys. And you look at the fantasy production allowed to running backs, and who's at the top of that list? Not the Lions, who gave up 4 touchdowns to the Eagles, but the Eagles. The Eagles allowed the most fantasy production to running backs in week one. They gave up 26 carries for 172 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 by Jamal Williams, and then 4 more catches for 33 yards. So they gave up over 200 scrimmage yards, 2 backs, and 3 scores. And I think Dalvin Cook is, he ran a route on 70% of the Vikings dropbacks in this new Kevin O'Connell offense. I think he's going to be a guy that they lean on a lot this week. On the road, I think they're going to try to, they're going to have to deal with that crowd, and they're going to want to quiet them down. So I think, last week they were at home, they kind of had play action game going. Nobody was covering Justin Jefferson. This week, I think you're going to see a Dalvin Cook eruption spot against this Eagles defense. So I really like him as he's probably going to be like the 3rd or 4th highest rostered guy in that spot.
Yeah, I like that. And you got in the outline before me and took him. So, congratulations on that. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's top 3 running back for me in my rankings. We knew that, though. Whenever he's going to be healthy, obviously he has top 3 upside, and he's healthy now. But love the underlying usage in week one. And, just he could go off here. So love that call.
So yeah, what I was going to talk about with Brown was I noticed something interesting about week one, and that was that the Lions decided to play the most man coverage in the league against the Eagles in week one. Now, AJ Brown throughout his career has just been a killer versus man coverage. He averages 3.3 yards per route in his career against man coverage with a 30% target rate per route. Against zone, he's still elite at 2.4. But the target per route goes down to 22.5. So it's about an 8% dip and almost a yard per route that he goes down. So he's still the best on the Eagles, but this could be the type of game where you see some of the other guys step up, because you look at Dallas Goedert in his career, 1.4 yards per route against man with a 17% target share. But against zone, 2.1 yards per route with a 21% target share. Devontae Smith, against man coverage, just 16% targets per route and 1.6 yards per route. But against zone, he jumps up to 21% targets per route and 1.9 yards per route run. So Goddard and Smith, those are the guys that are, tend to be more involved against zone coverage, which the Vikings are going to play about 3/4, about 75% of the time, as do most defenses in the league. Like that's why what the Lions did was so odd, because they kind of invited AJ Brown to just go off. And I mean, I guess maybe you could say it worked. They only lost by 3, but they were down big for most of the game. So I don't know about that defensive game plan for the Lions, but AJ Brown's still my top projected pass catcher. For the Eagles. Yeah. But this could be, everyone's going to be off Devontae Smith. He didn't get a catch last week. Dallas Goedert had 60 yards, no touchdowns, so kind of quiet as well. I do think this is a good week for both of those guys, just based on the difference in matchup from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, I'm never going to argue against Dallas Goedert. You know that. He's my tight end 5 this week, so love the call. I mean, I'm going to use my flex, but certainly in the captain slot, he can get a touchdown or 2 and pay off there. But I just wanted to double down, like reinvest in AJ Brown if I could this week.
I
agree. And then Devontae Smith, another great call. I mean, he's obviously a deep threat here, but I'm going against him in my dart throw that we can get to in a minute.
Go.
All right. Well, so my dart throw on the Eagles side has got to be Quez Watkins. He's one of those players that offers a wide range of outcomes. And when I mention wide, I mean, 0 to 100. Last week in week 1, he was just running wind sprints out there. He failed to draw a single target despite running a route on 64% of Jalen Hurts dropbacks. Now, he could easily finish with 0 catches again here. I am not saying he is a cash game play or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but he's one of those players that could easily break loose for a big play or 2. And this is, those times that we like to use players like this on a 1-game slate. So he's going to go off for 2 or 3 games this season. So this could be one of them. So I think he's a sneaky dart throw. And then a guy on the other side that we were both pretty high on last week, and that's Irv Smith. He was shut out in week 1. He only ran a route on 42% of dropbacks. He was clearly being eased back from his broken thumb. I joked, who needs a thumb to catch passes? Apparently I was wrong. Apparently you do. But he's one of those guys that we talked about where his playing time is only going to go up. So I think this is one of those games where I think the public might be fading him after week 1. But he could easily go off because, he's going to be, arguably a top 12 receiver when healthy. So I just want to buy low while I can.
You're not investing in Johnny Munt and Ben Ellefson?
I mean,
Johnny Munt did lead the Vikings.
I can absolutely get behind some Johnny Munt, but I think that his playing time is certainly going to come at the expense.
It is.
Of Irv Smith. But I did see that. That was interesting.
O'Connell came out and said they were easing Smith in. So I would. But the thing about Munt is O'Connell had him with the Rams and like loved him for doing all the dirty work. So it's a complicated situation. But I do expect Irv Smith's routes run to tick up as soon as this week. So I think another guy people will probably be a little bit scared of after what happened last. A lot of these guys in this game. I actually like someone who did come through last week, and that's Kenny Gainwell, your boy. I feel like you I don't know. I'm surprised. I must have written him down before you too.
You did. You stole all the players. And I had to take some of them, but I left the rest for you. But obviously I agree with whatever you're about to say about Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah. So, this is the kind of matchup again, against that Lions team. Now they had a bad run defense. Obviously every Eagles back got in the end zone, but they played a lot of man coverage, and this Vikings team, you can expect them to play about 80% zone. And when you get a zone coverage, that's when Gainwell really catches the ball. 30% targets per route and 1.9 yards per route against zone coverage compared to just 21% targets per route and under a yard per route versus man coverage. So he's going up, 10% in terms of his target share in these coverages because Jalen Hurts can just kind of dump it off. That's what you want out of Gainwell. And he's always going to get a little bit of red zone work here and there that like Sanders is not their red zone back. They kind of just rotate guys in. So could see Boston Scott as well. But I think because of Gainwell's ability to catch the ball here in this spot, and, if Philadelphia for some reason gets down at home, let's say, Dalvin Cook has a big game, Justin Jefferson, the Vikings, can kind of get a lead here. I think you'd see a lot of Gainwell in the hurry up offense. So love me some Kenny Gainwell this week.
Yeah, that's a good point in the game script. Last week he operated as the clear number 2 back, but they were in control. The score might be misleading. They won by 3, but they were in control for much of that game. The Lions offense got off to a slow start, so it wasn't really a Kenny Gainwell game script. But like you said, if the Vikings get off to a fast start or something, he would definitely be used a lot more in the passing game. So love that call.
And one more on the Vikings. I got to go with my dude, CJ Ham, the fullback.
There you go.
So looking at the box score from week 1, CJ Ham played just as many snaps as Alexander Madison. So, the perception is totally different between the two. And yeah, CJ Ham's obviously going to block a little bit more, but O'Connell was talking about, utilizing CJ Ham, during camp, and how he's not just going to run his like cookie cutter offense that he did with the Rams. He's going to adopt to the personnel. So he backed it up in week 1 by playing Ham the same amount of snaps as Madison. And he didn't really unleash him on any kind of, crazy passing game concepts. So I think you could, he's been playing some tight end too. So maybe it cuts into Irv Smith a little bit, but I think you could see kind of like an Andrew Beck type of rampage. You're going to see it at one of these games. CJ Ham's going to get like 3 catches on one drive. And why not this one in prime time? So got to mention my boy CJ Ham. I think he has better days coming in this Minnesota offense.
Love the usage of the words unleash and rampage when referring to CJ Ham. But
not Dalvin Cook, but CJ Ham.
If there's ever guy that's going to get a troll touchdown here, it's got to be him. And after Andrew Beck, I am not shitting on your backup fullback or backup tight end calls in the short term anyway.
Yeah. Are you going to ask me why the Eagles rookie was a healthy scratch? Grant Calcaterra. They called up Noah.
Oh, yeah.
They called up Noah Togiai. I don't know. I guess they like his blocking more.
Yeah,
it's 2 rookie tight ends that just got the complete healthy scratch. Trey McBride and Grant Calcaterra.
Yeah, Calcaterra is sneaky. The only reason he went in the 6th round was because unfortunately he's had just a ton of concussions, but he's super talented. Unfortunately we can't use him for this slate, but down the road, hopefully we can have some shares of his. But yeah, I was going to ask, like, why was he a healthy scratch? But
hey, I mean, I would pay attention to the inactives, because if he's active, you can use him on his slate. We can.
Yeah, for sure.
Better to get
legit. He's legit.
Yeah, no, better to get ahead. And it's kind of like if Tyree Jackson ever comes back, is he still around? He's like on IR or something.
He's on IR. Yeah.
But I think he's on IR to return. So yeah. Okay, that's enough backup tight end.
The only podcast where you can get CJ Ham analysis for more than 30 seconds.
Hey, our Pro Bowl pod, we do it too. Because remember, fullbacks always crushing the Pro Bowl.
That is true.
All right, that is going to do it for the Fantasy Flex Night Shift episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave us a 5-star rating and review. We choose our favorite each week, and you win a free year of Action Pro, where you get our rankings and projections and all that good stuff, which are live right now at actionnetwork.com. You can find Sean on Twitter at @the_oddsmaker. You can find me at Chris Raybon, and you can find us at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. For more great fantasy content from Sean and I, be sure to check out our full player projections episode, out now over on the Action Network podcast channel. And of course, our fantasy preview episode where we break down the DFS Thursday night and the main slate. That's on this channel. That's out right now as well. And good luck this weekend, everybody. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.